Good evening, guys. Welcome to the 46th edition of the Boxing Gossip podcast. Hope everyone's doing well. As always, busy show for you guys this week. We're going to start by talking about last week's boxing, mainly Crolla, Linares, Okolie, Josh Taylor, and a few other names. We're going to talk about some of the news in boxing. Breaking news that Luis Ortiz signed with Alhaven, so we'll be discussing that. We'll be discussing the Chisora Helenius rematch. We're going to be discussing Eubank calling out Bellew and much more. Then we're going to have a look ahead to next week's action. We're going to be talking Marco Huck versus Marius Bradis and Dominic Akinlade versus Nathan Gorman. So, lots to discuss, guys, and it should be an action-packed show. On the panel tonight, we've got Irish Tom, we've got Paul, and we've got Jet. So, good squad of guys ready and assembled to discuss all things going on in the sport of boxing. We're going to start by bringing in Jet. Jet wasn't with us last week, so I want to give him an opportunity straight away on this week's show. And Jet, I guess the one obvious place to start, mate, is Crolla versus Linares. So, your take on that rematch, mate?
Yeah, the rematch for me is pretty, it was boring, if I put it that way. I know I'm being blunt right from the get-go, but pretty boring. It wasn't really warranted. Crolla done well in the first fight, but I don't think he warranted a rematch. I know there was a rematch clause because Linares was a voluntary contender that they picked out from the WBA rankings. So, it wasn't a great fight, and Linares gets a routine win, easy win under his belt. I saw your post-fight interview, and I know you're a big fan of Jorge Linares. I also am too. I'm not like as big a fan as you guys, maybe, but I do think he has holes in his game, and someone like a Mikey Garcia, who he called out, someone like a Lomachenko could definitely pick out those flaws in his game. I thought, at times he got picked up easy by Crolla. He did have some good head movement and that sort of stuff, but at times I thought it was a bit too easy for Crolla to just pick him off with a single shot. And Linares is a good operator, but he's a world-class operator. Let's put it that way. But for me, he just he does get caught a bit too often for someone of his skill set. And I just like to see him kind of tighten up on that defense if he's going to go in with the big dogs, if you know what I mean. But it was a fairly routine win. Hello.
Sorry, Jet, we lost you for a second there, but I think you're all good, mate. So carry on.
Yeah, it was a fairly routine win for Linares, and he goes marching on. But in sort of in a nutshell, I just do think he can improve. And I think he's a very good fighter, but there are some holes in his game that can be exploited by someone like a Mikey Garcia, who probably is the best at 135 for me.
Okay, do you think that fight is the fight that's going to happen next for Linares?
Well, obviously Linares has got the WBC diamond belt, doesn't he? So that is a mandated fight, obviously, for the two of them, and whether or not the fight will happen is another question. Obviously, he's called them out live on Sky Sports, so he has a platform and he's called them out. It could be there. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a sort of voluntary shot, have like a voluntary in between, and then maybe Mikey Garcia himself is coming off a long layoff. So, it could be next, but maybe a fight in between wouldn't be too bad for the both of them, I guess.
What about Anthony Crolla, Jet? In my post-fight video, I kind of speculated it could go one of two ways. We could see Anthony Crolla step down a level, rebuild, have an 8-rounder, and then have one last roll of the dice. Or we could see Anthony Crolla perhaps becoming an opponent, and being brought in to lose against guys like against guys like Luke Campbell and Ricky Burns. What's your opinion on where he goes next?
Yeah, do you know what? Crolla is a really, really tough one to judge because he has some credible wins against the likes of Darlis Perez, Barroso. He has a decent few fights with Derry Matthews. Obviously, he drew and lost those respective fights. So he's definitely got something, obviously, to be at that sort of level. But whether or not he's a truly elite, world-class fighter in the lightweight division, you know, for me, it's very tough. I know he's been talking a lot this week about moving up to light welterweight and facing Ricky Burns, which is a potential fight, obviously, if Burns comes through the Indongo fight. But I think Crolla is a very, very small 135 guy for me. I totally agree with your analysis there. I just cannot see him having success at 140, and I think he gets starched by some of the guys at 140. I know they're talking about Terry Flanagan, and Crolla would probably have to earn $1 million. I don't know if you heard that comment with Eddie Hearn. He said he'd have to earn $1 million if he was going to fight Terry Flanagan. And I don't know whether that's just smoke and mirrors by Eddie. Frank's obviously saying the fight needs to be on Box Nation. It's kind of tough to put Crolla in a situation that he's going to win in. Either he's going to have to take some short end of the stick via money route, or he's going to have to go against a really, really tough opponent. The other champions obviously at the weight are Flanagan. Whether that fight happens or not due to boxing politics is a question within itself. And obviously Mikey Garcia and Robert Easter Jr., does he have a credible chance of beating those two guys in the States? I don't think so. So he's in a bit of a catch-22 situation. For me, he should kind of step back, take a few warm-up fights, tune-up fights, 1 or 2. He's kind of due it. He's faced Linares twice, Barroso, Darlis Perez twice. So, he's been on a decent roll, and he's been fighting some decent fighters. And, I just think he should take a step back, enjoy a nice break, and get back into the thick of things after a few warm-up fights and have one final roll of the dice. But, the lightweight division, it's a tough division to win a world title if he's looking to win a world title. If he's looking to win a European title, maybe he could do that. That's fine. But, if he's looking to win a world title, it's going to be very, very tough for Mr. Crolla.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Jet. I echo your sentiments there. Let me bring in Paul. Paul, you heard what Jet's got to say there in the fight. What was your take on the matchup? I personally was slightly more charitable to Linares there. I thought it was a pretty sublime performance.
Yeah, I thought it was a decent performance. I mean, we all kind of said it last week that I kind of felt that I just didn't see Crolla as the sort of fighter that was gonna bring anything new, that was gonna be versatile enough to turn a decision like that around. And it was exactly as I expected, to be honest. I thought Linares did look good. I thought he looked as good, at least, maybe even a little bit better than last time. Crolla, I mean, I think for me, Crolla has never been a fighter that I've, no disrespect to him, of course, he's a nice guy and whatnot, but he's never been a fighter that I've been a huge fan of. I think he's very, very basic. I think, he does just that one thing, and if it doesn't work, I don't think he's got a plan B at all. And really, I mean, if you look at his wins, I mean, Darlis Perez, I mean, who would Darlis Perez ever really beat? I mean, kind of like Darlis Perez, I mean, he was in with Gamboa and got absolutely spanked. And Barroso, who would Barroso beat? Like Kevin Mitchell? I mean, these are not guys. I mean, these are people that maybe look like they had a little bit about them. Barroso certainly looked quite dangerous coming into the qualifier. But I think they were guys that were really unproven. And, he's done well. He's won a world title. I think he's reached the ceiling, to be honest, Crolla. How old is he now?
I think he's only 30, mate. But, maybe he isn't the youngest of 30s, I guess.
Yeah, he's been in a few wars, hasn't he? And these two Linares fights are not going to have made that any easier. I mean, some guys are kind of like, I know we'll talk about the Hook, Marco Hook, because there's certain guys that you just kind of imagine, George Groves as well. They're guys that you imagine are older than they are. I don't know if it's because they've been around for a while or the wars that they've been in or whatever. I think in boxing, age is relative, in it. It's about how much punishment have you taken, and I don't know where Crolla goes from here. It was a bit predictable, to be fair.
Definitely. Paul, let's talk Joe Gallagher for a second. He's someone who's come in for a lot of stick after this fight and after the Marcus Morrison fight as well. But, you know, I don't think any trainer would have necessarily got Crolla to beat Linares. I think Linares was the far superior fighter. But what I did find strange is that there seemed to be literally no plan B for Anthony Crolla. He didn't seem to bring anything new to the table. There was no adaptation. There was no variation. There was no ability to mix it up when the fight wasn't going his way. Do you think Joe Gallagher should at least have looked to try something different?
I think he has to take a little bit of stick. I think some of the stick is warranted. I mean, I think he some of the advice in the corner was not particularly good. And then you mentioned the Marcus Morrison fight. I mean, Marcus Morrison got absolutely spanked, and you know, like he just seemed very lackluster in the corner. You know, like I mean, like I just believe you should tell a fighter the truth, and he didn't seem to be telling Marcus Morrison like anything was up. Marcus Morrison looked like he got found out a little bit there for me. Tank wise as well. I mean, he's huge. He's absolutely huge. Looks to me anyway. I don't know about anybody else. Looks to me huge at the weight. Fantastic shape. But it just goes to show again, doesn't it, that muscles don't win fights, and you know.
Yeah, he was in against the guy who'd fought at welterweight, and you know, that size still wasn't enough.
Yeah, and he looked considerably the bigger man in the ring to me. I forget the guy's name. I know the guy was stocky looking guy, but
Jason Wellborn.
Yeah, Jason Wellborn, that's it. I mean, like, I don't think he was a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, I mean, Gallagher, he's, you know, all his fighters seem to fight the same way, and it's just kind of like, I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan. It's kind of like, I don't think Joe Gallagher as a trainer has a plan B. I don't think he's got a plan B to offer him.
Interesting. What fight would you like to see Crolla take next, Paul? Is Luke Campbell? Do we want to throw him into a fight with Terry Flanagan? Do you want to see him fight Ricky Burns? I mean, what route do you see being the right one for Crolla?
I mean, the Burns fight might make sense. Burns is getting on, isn't he? I'm not sure how much Burns has got left, but by and large, I think over the next few years, I think we will probably see Crolla become a bit of a opponent, you know, bit of a name for up and coming guys to get on their resume and stuff. I think that's probably or even maybe retire, depending on how careful he's been with his money. I don't see the Flanagan fight happening. I just don't think it's going to happen. Especially now he's come off a loss. I think it would just be too easy for spanners to be thrown in the works here now, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm not sure the commercials are there for that fight either, given the respective demands.
I don't know if he would get $1 million either. I mean, did I hear Jet right?
Yeah, Jet was saying Crolla would want $1 million, but you know, Crolla's coming off 2 losses. Terry Flanagan isn't the biggest ticket seller out there, and I just don't know. I don't know if it's that big a fight. It's not a pay-per-view fight.
I don't think worth that. I mean, does anybody think that he's going to get $1 million for the? I mean, I don't think so. I really don't.
I don't think he's worth $1 million.
Lucky to get half of it.
Yeah, I don't think he's worth $1 million, guys. As in, Eddie Hearn actually said that in on an article in boxing scenes. So I'm just quoting it from there, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, what these guys have to realise is that the lower down in weight you go, the less money there is there, the less interest there is there. I mean, yeah, I don't see it. I just don't see it.
Okay, no, appreciate your thoughts on that, Paul. We're 18 minutes in, so time to let Iris out of his cage. Iris, I had to mute you earlier on because it sounded like you were rustling up a storm in the kitchen. But I think you're unmuted now. Give us your thoughts on this matchup from the weekend, mate.
Well, I thought that was one of the most boring nights of boxing I've ever seen. Terrible card. The main event was only good for Linares being good. You know, I think people are getting carried away with Linares. To listen to a good few podcasts now, and they're talking about him like he's the second coming. But I think, you know, he's quite a flawed, good fighter along the ilk of, say, Amir Khan. He's probably got more technique than Amir, but he's got that fast hands. But when he puts it on him, he's likely to crumble. And Crolla is surely not the man to do that. So I just think, like people are talking about, I'd love to see the Mikey Garcia-Linares fight, but I think it's an easy win for Garcia. I think once he figures him out after 3 or 4 rounds, he'll just stop him in 8. So, but I'd like to see it.
Do you think Mikey Garcia would potentially have any trouble finding the right sort of range with Linares? He struck me as a very awkward target, you know, lots of upper body movement, lots of footwork. Do you think Mikey Garcia would find him quite as easy to walk down as he did Zlatkonin?
Not so much Zlatkonin, because Zlatkonin was kind of coming for him, so he didn't have to kind of figure out the range because Zlatkonin was coming on top of him. But with this, I think that your man has shown at Linares in the past that he's susceptible to pressure fighters. I haven't seen those fights, but you know, Mikey is not really a pressure fighter. He's a boxer, puncher. So you know, I just think that he's super elite, Mikey, and I just think that, you know, he's got extremely heavy hands as well. And we saw Crolla getting knocked. Remember the Linares we saw against Kevin Mitchell. You know,
yeah.
Like Linares doesn't have any big names on his resume as far as I can see. You know, he's done well against Crolla, but Crolla, to be honest with you lads, he's domestic European level fighter with very basic. He got no real ability to change tack or anything like that. So, you know, so I think that, you know, if Kevin Mitchell is able to put him through the rinser, imagine the difference in quality between Kevin Mitchell and Mikey Garcia. They're just leagues apart. So I think definitely be for 1 and 2 in the division. So definitely, we've seen a lot of good fights. We've got a lot of fights lined up between 1 and 2 and similar fights in nearly all the weight classes this year. So I'd like to see that. It's another one.
Okay, yeah, no, I totally agree. That's a fight that makes itself, as far as I'm concerned. It'd be a great matchup. Tom, when it went to the scorecards, were you a little bit concerned for a long time with the decision?
God, yeah, I think they would have done well this time. But you see, there was a big promoter in the house, Oscar De La Hoya. You know, probably one of the biggest in the world. Probably still the biggest in the world, because Heyman doesn't have a promotional outfit, so he's probably still the biggest promotional outfit in the world. So there's no fucking around on the judges' cards when these guys come over. Although they did do it to Bob Arms, man, the last time, but you'd find it extremely hard to give Crolla more than 2 rounds. I think 2 rounds was probably about right, somewhere between 11-1 and 10-2. You know, but you know, one thing, like, you know, I've been said that I'm not a fan of Joe Gallagher for a long time. But, like, let's say if I was Anthony Crolla and I had that kind of style, who would I prefer to be with? Joe Gallagher or Ricky Hatton?
What, other than Joe?
To me, Ricky.
It's a difficult question, that, because Crolla, for me, is a fighter with a ceiling, unfortunately. And I actually think he's hit a ceiling, and I kind of think he's, you know, he's already performed as well as he could have done. And that's why I didn't really lay it on Gallagher, because, you know, as much as I you know, I don't think any trainer would have got him the win. Having said that, you would like to think that they'd bring something different in a rematch, wouldn't you? And I don't know what that is, but you would like to think they'd at least experiment with a different look. And for me, it was the lack of imagination that was frustrating.
Yeah, there's none. But I think Ricky Hatton is an excellent pressure fighter coach. Like he's had some really good results with fellas that kind of came from nowhere. You know, your Relic and what do you call the guy, ZZ?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. That Relic would be a classic, a classic example, wouldn't it? I guess.
Yeah, and I think he shows these guys how to, like, Hatton is an underrated fighter. He was very intelligent fighter at creating angles and bringing, trying to show routes to getting good body shots to the body and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, when I see Ricky Hatton's fighters and I compare them, because they are a similar type of style, you know, they're pressure fighters, you know, left hook to the body type fighters. When you see comparing to Joe Gallagher's, I think there's much more to Ricky Hatton, and I think that he's shown like he's able to implement it to a reasonably high level with guys who don't look like they're going to be that good. You know, so if I was Crolla, I'd be in with Ricky Hatton. I think it suits his style excellently. You know, Joe Gallagher has got very little going for him. I think what he is good at, he's very good at getting guys fit. And he's really exceptional at being a dickhead in a paranoid, schizophrenic dickhead. But apart from that, he's got very little going for him. Did anybody hear him? Hello, can anybody hear me?
Okay, you were cutting a bit there, Tom, but it still all came through, definitely. I was going to ask you about the undercard briefly, if you had any thoughts on that. Perhaps if you had a look at Lawrence Okolie's debut.
I did, yeah. What can you learn from that? I can't learn anything from that. But he looks like he's got power. The Morrison fight was desperate. Like, I was watching it with my missus, and my missus was giving out, you know, saying, you know, boxing's horrible, you know, how can you watch that? And I was sitting there saying, yeah, he should be pulled out long ago. This guy's getting a pacing, and he should have been pulled out. That's another fighter that Joe Gallagher has left in there to take a pacing when it didn't need to be. The Brian Rose fight was absolutely diabolical. It was like being stuck in a space-time continuum. I was expecting fucking Data and Geordie LaForge to come in and start fiddling with the fucking stream to try and fix it. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on the undercard. I didn't actually watch Katie Taylor.
Oh, Katie Taylor. Oh yeah, Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor. I'm with Ultratech on this. She just throws millions of punches. She's got a really incredible hand speed. She really does. She's got as good a hand speed as any of the. You know, she's like nearly Amir Khan type hand speed. Down in any of her punches, and they're all arm punches, and so she might as well just be fighting an 8-round amateur fight, you know. And you know the standard of the opposition of these fighters is very poor. Now we don't know, like that girl fought for a world title. Like she was useless. You know, and you know the thing is, there's no money in the women's professional game. You'll make more money as a women boxer by staying amateur and staying in your Olympic squad. You'll get 60,000 quid a year or 80,000. You might get some sponsors. Like in these pro fights, how much are they making? Unless you're Katie Taylor, they're making nothing. So it's not going to attract them.
Yes, looking after Katie Taylor financially, you know. But generally, I take your point. Generally, I don't think there's any money in it. No.
So, like, the better women are to be found in the amateur ranks. So, you know, it was an 8-rounder as well, like, and the crowd completely switched off, you know. And it's not to say that Katie Taylor hasn't got an exciting style, but, like, you don't want to be watching somebody doing 28 punch flurries and the other girl taking 28 shots to the head and still standing there like there's nothing wrong. You know, it's just, you know, it just becomes a bit kind of pointless at that stage. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Katie Taylor's performance, and he thinks she needs to sit down her punches. All in all,
makes sense.
I'm very, very
I didn't watch that one either.
Sorry, which one, Gossip? You just broke up on me.
Yeah, you're
Which one?
breaking up badly at the minute, Tom.
I'm breaking up, am I?
Yeah, quite badly, and you're out of sync as well. You're a little bit out of sync as well. But carry on. I'm sure it'll clear up.
All right, I'll try and get things reset at my end. Paul, let's go over to you just while I'm doing that. Can you run us through your thoughts on the undercard, mate?
I haven't really got much more to add. I mean, the Marcus Morrison, I agree, should have been pulled out. We got an awful pasting. Thought Joe Gallagher, like I said before, he just didn't have anything to offer him. I mean, the kid didn't know what he was doing, didn't know what to do, and he was getting no advice from what I could tell. You know, the just Joe Gallagher, just awful. Rose Armfield was, I mean, I think, I mean, sitting, turning a vice with my balls in it might have been a bit more entertaining than that fight. I mean, it was just awful.
That's what kind of a matchmaker puts that fight together? Are they not the two worst styles? A 154 guy who never knocked anyone out against a 160 pounder who never knocks anybody out.
Well, it was billed as the Battle of Blackpool or whatever, wasn't it? Blackpool fucking Derby or whatever. I mean,
wow, that's really got my pulses racing.
Oh yeah, just like the fight did. No, it was pretty awful. I didn't see Katie Taylor. Who else? Who else was on the undercard?
There was Martin Ward, Lawrence Okolie, and Marcus Morrison, who we touched on, I guess.
Oh yeah, I didn't see the Martin Ward fight. Though he's usually in decent fights. I haven't seen that one. Okolie, well, I mean, good punch, two good punches, two good right hands. Can't really say much more about it than that. It was about 20 seconds. He speaks well though. He puts himself across well. I thought in the like in the after fight interview, he's a likable character. His style seems a bit. I mean, you couldn't see much of it, but for those 20 seconds, he seemed a bit. Seems to carry his hands very, very high, and be a bit jerky in his movements and whatnot. But first pro fight, so I guess we'll give him, and he's certainly got a bit of power. That's for damn sure. Put that guy to sleep. I know he was a nobody, but put him to sleep pretty sharpish. So, but yeah, couldn't really learn too much from that, to be fair.
Understood. The other one I forgot to throw into the mix. What's that fight at all, Paul?
No, you're breaking up again there, Tom. Say again, mate.
Oh, am I? Okay. I'm going to log out and log back in again. But do you guys want to talk about Josh Taylor? All right, I'll be back.
Tom, what you can do is if you see your just